In December 1944, the most powerful naval fleet ever assembled was not fighting the Japanese. It was fighting the Pacific itself. Admiral Halsey's Third Fleet, fresh from launching the invasions of Leyte and Mindoro, was refueling at sea when it steamed directly into the heart of a monster, Typhoon Cobra. The storm was a biblical fury. Waves rose to 70 feet, taller than a ship's bridge. Winds screamed at over 120 knots, tearing aircraft from their decks and peeling steel like paper. The fleet's true base in that moment was not an island or a port. It was the formation itself. A carefully ordered constellation of carriers, battleships, and destroyers designed for mutual support and defense. The Typhoon shattered that base in minutes. On the bridge of the aircraft carrier, USS Monterey, a young officer named Gerald R. Ford, the future President of the United States, fought to keep the ship from capsizing as it rolled to a terrifying 70 degrees. Below decks, loose aircraft smashed into each other, sparking fires that threatened to detonate fuel and bombs. This scene of chaos was repeated across the fleet. But the storm's true victims were the destroyers. These small, nimble hunters were not built for this. Their low freeboard made them submarines in all the wrong ways. The USS Hull, Monaghan, and Spence, their fuel tanks dangerously low from the prolonged operations, became unstable. One by one, they were picked up by mountains of water, rolled onto their sides by the wind, and swallowed whole by the sea. Over 790 sailors were lost, not to enemy action, but to the ocean's indifferent rage. In the storm's aftermath, the base of the formation was in tatters. Survivors clung to wreckage in oil-choked waters. Ships were crippled, bows smashed, superstructures collapsed, radar sheared off. The carrier USS Cowpens had its entire forward flight deck curl upward like a sardine can lid. Yet what happened next defined the U.S. Navy's war. The fleet did not retreat to port. It became its own emergency repair base, adrift in a still churning sea. Less damaged ships turned rescuers, pulling oil-coated, hypothermic sailors from the water with cargo nets and lines. Damage control parties, working in soaked and rolling darkness, performed triage on their own vessels, shoring up bulkheads and fighting fires. The badly mauled ships limped toward the recently captured Ulithi Atoll when the shattered fleet finally entered. Ulithi's lagoon, the true scale of the disaster, was laid bare. But so too was the response. Ulithi itself transformed overnight from a forward staging base into the world's most advanced trauma center for ships. The tenders and repair ships at anchor, like the USS Jason, became emergency rooms. The lagoon became a parking lot for the wounded. Every welder, electrician, and ship fitter in the atoll was pressed into service. The repairs made at Espiritu Santo were now matters of life and death on a colossal scale. Within 6 weeks, through superhuman effort, the Third Fleet was largely made whole again. It sailed from Ulithi to launch the invasions of Iwo Jima and Okinawa. The Typhoon had proven that the Navy's most resilient base was not made of coral or steel, but of doctrine, training, and sheer human will. It was the ingrained ability of every crew to save their ship and their mates, and the logistical network that could absorb a catastrophe and still produce a fighting fleet. Typhoon Cobra taught a brutal lesson. The enemy was not just the one you could see. The Pacific itself was a combatant, and the base that ultimately defeated it was not a place, but a culture of resilience that turned survivors into repairmen, a disaster into a lesson, and a broken fleet back into the instrument of final victory.